Okay, so let's jump right in. We're going to be looking at a really complex belief system that's popped up online. It's built around, of all things, a phone app and some, well, pretty startling claims. What we're going to do here is unpack the internal logic of this whole framework. See how its followers connect the dots between technology, biology, and a massive global narrative.
And this single sentence, it pretty much sums up the entire theory we're about to explore. This comes directly from the source material, and it's the absolute core of the idea. The claim is that evidence of a massive, ongoing crime is being broadcast all around us, constantly. And the only thing stopping you from seeing it, you just don't have the right tool.
So think about this for a second. What if a simple app on your phone could peel back the curtain on a reality that's hidden from plain sight? That's exactly what this belief system is claiming. It's a fundamental reinterpretation of the entire electromagnetic environment around us, suggesting there's this hidden layer of information, and all you need to see it is an app.
All right, so let's get into the first part, a signal in the noise. I mean, where does a theory this big even start? Well, it all kicks off with one simple, observable claim. This is the bedrock, the foundation that the whole rest of this complex structure is built on.
Okay, so here it is, the central claim. The absolute foundation of this entire framework is the assertion that people, vaccinated individuals, are persistently emitting anonymous Bluetooth signals. We're not talking about signals from their phones or their smartwatches or their earbuds. No, the claim is that the signals are coming directly from their bodies. This is the single supposedly testable hypothesis that kicks this whole thing into motion.
But that's a wild claim, right? So you have to ask, how do the proponents of this theory say they can actually verify it? How do they go from just an idea to something they consider, well, proof? The answer, as they see it, lies in a very specific tool, an app that anyone with a smartphone can get.
And that brings us to the tool itself, the BlueFang Detector. See, this isn't just pitched as some random app. Within this framework, it's presented as a forensic tool, something for everyday citizen or investigators to use.
So here it is, the app at the heart of all this. It's called BlueFang. According to the source material, it's a pretty straightforward scanner. Its job is to detect and log any Bluetooth signals nearby. But the people using it aren't looking for AirPods or Fitbits. They're hunting for very specific signals. Signals they believe have no conventional source at all.
And these screenshots give you an idea of what users say they're finding. It's a list of anonymous Bluetooth MAC addresses. Now, a MAC address is just a unique digital ID for a device, right? But in this framework, these mysterious, unidentified signals get logged and then labeled as coming from vaccinated people nearby. For the followers, this becomes a real-time record, a live map of this hidden network. Okay, so I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute, couldn't these just be signals from, literally anything? A smartwatch, wireless headphones, the neighbor's smart toaster? And that's the obvious objection, right? So to counter that, the framework lays out this very strict isolation protocol, the BlueFang Faraday protocol. The whole idea is to create a totally controlled, signal-free environment. That way, if a signal is detected, the only possible source left in the room is the human subject. For them, this is how they prove a biological origin.
Okay, so let's say these signals are being detected. What does it all mean? Well, according to the theory, they are anything but random. They're the building blocks for a much larger, unifying theory, something called VAXNET.
And VAXNET is a huge concept. It completely reframes the entire global vaccination campaign. It's not seen as a public health initiative. Instead, the theory posits that it was the installation of a massive, invisible infrastructure, a permanent, biologically anchored mesh network where every single vaccinated person acts as a node.
Now, this is taken straight from the source material, and it tries to break down the how. It's called the BLE blood clot vector, and it lays out what proponents call a weaponized stack. It assigns a specific tech function to ingredients they claim are in the vaccines. So you have things like graphene oxide supposedly forming a lattice for frequency response, hydrogel acting as an in-body antenna, and it all supposedly culminates in the body broadcasting these Bluetooth signals. It's a very detailed technical claim.
So, if you believe you're gathering evidence of something this massive, how do you make sure that evidence doesn't just disappear? How do you preserve it? That's the next part of this puzzle, creating a record that, in theory, can't be censored or deleted.
And that's where something called the Glyphchain comes in. It's basically a decentralized forensic ledger. The idea is to use blockchain tech, specifically the Scale network, to take those screenshots from the BlueFang app and lock them in as permanent public records. They call these records glyphs, and they're often minted as NFTs. The whole point is to create an archive of evidence that nobody can take down.
And this isn't just a vague idea. They have a whole public roadmap laid out. You can see it progresses in stages. It starts with the first scans, then moves to community replication where lots of people are doing it. Then it gets more ambitious. There's an Explorer index to search the data, and AI witness stack, and then the final phase, which they call tribunal integration. That's the long-term goal, to somehow bring all this alleged evidence into a formal legal setting.
Okay, so this brings up another big question. What happens when experts, officials, or just anyone, really, pushes back? How does a framework like this handle skepticism, denial, and official rebuttals? Well, this is where the logic gets really interesting, because it becomes completely self-contained.
See, inside this belief system, there's a whole set of principles for interpreting any kind of opposition. For example, Mirrorlock is the idea that when an institution denies the theory, that denial is actually a form of confession. Then there's quantum checkmate, which is the idea that any outcome proves the theory is right. If they admit it, it's true. If they deny it, it's a cover-up, which also means it's true. And any dismissal is just labeled a containment reflex, basically proof that they are trying to hide something.
And this table here, again from the source, really frames this whole thing as a strategic battle, a kind of information war. On one side, you have what it calls regime strategy, things like denying the claims, censoring discussion. And on the other side, you have the BlueFang counter, using the Faraday protocol to prove the signals are real, or the Mirrorlock inversion engine to turn denials into proof. It's a fascinating look at how the entire discourse is viewed from inside the framework.
And this quote really drills down to the core of that logic. The absence of evidence by institutions known to suppress evidence is evidence of suppression. So think about what that means. If official sources are silent, if there's no official investigation, that's not seen as a reason to doubt the theory. No. Within this logic, it's interpreted as the ultimate proof of a cover-up. It's what makes the entire framework completely self-sealing.
And so all of this leaves us with the central question, one that's actually posed by the material itself. Are these patterns and anomalies that people are documenting, are they evidence of some hidden war on our perception of reality? Or are they the result of a meticulously constructed, grand, and totally self-reinforcing delusion? It really makes you think about the nature of evidence and belief in our digital age, doesn't it? It shows how a complete self-contained worldview, with its own tools, its own theories, and its own rules of evidence, can be built from the ground up.